So the book is The Eye of the Storm. It's by Gary Simmons, who is a Unity minister in Spokane. And the tagline is embracing conflict and creating peace. And so since the 1st of May, when I started, immersing myself in this book for Sunday mornings and talking about it, what I noticed is, how we focus on things, the more we focus on it, the more the opposite may show up to kind of go, you sure? So let's just say I've had a real great opportunity trying to figure out the 4 attributes of wholeness. Because if there's 4 attributes of wholeness, there are 4 winds of conflict, right? So the first wind of conflict is separateness. And how we are born whole, complete, and perfect, or how that is the intention. Because I'm doing a lot of personal work on some really old stories that I have been telling myself that have been driving my life. And I have been working with a person that does energy healing, and I've been working with her, and this started back in the womb for me. So I'm not sure that I was necessarily born whole, complete, and perfect. However, that is the intent, and that there is a part of me, my soul, that absolutely is whole, complete, and perfect. And that is the part of me, remember, because Ernest Holmes says we are spirits ever expanding. So that is the part of me that is constantly attracting to me opportunities to grow spiritually. Makes me want to just throw up sometimes. I'll be really honest with you. It's like, seriously, again. So an example of that, so feeling separate, how we set ourselves up to feel separate, how on this plane we are set up to feel separate. Not only do we look physically separate, no 2 of us look alike. We have different shades of skin. We love different kinds of people. We practice different religions. We vote differently. We are set up to look separate. And then there's a part of us that wants to be safe. And so how those 2 fight each other is then what we tend to do is we only associate with people that are going to make us feel safe. So they have to look like us, they have to believe like us, they have to practice the same religion, because then, okay, now I'm comfortable. I don't think that's what our soul wants. Our soul doesn't necessarily want us to be comfortable. Our soul wants us to look at life as God sees life, and that is that we're all perfect. Every single one of us, regardless of what path we've chosen. So then if that is true, what is my attribute that I call through to look at separateness? And that would be communion, which is common union. How do I stand in the eye of the storm of separateness when somebody says something to me that may offend me? And I'll tell you how interesting this is. So the very first week I spoke, and it was all about not taking anything personal, not defending yourself when somebody comes up and says something to you. And so service ended at 11:15, probably right around 12:15, I had somebody come and tell me something, and I went right to defending myself. So obviously I wasn't listening to my talk. Because this is a practice, right? We can't beat ourselves up when we fall back into behaviors that we have been practicing forever and ever. And I texted the person later and said, I am so sorry. My intent was, and I couldn't say my intent was not to defend myself. My intent was to defend myself. I just said, I'm sorry that I went right into defending myself instead of really honoring what you were telling me. And so we worked that out. So that was a step in the right direction. But how do you deal with somebody that comes up to you and says, and I'll give you an example from the book, because then there's no energy attached to it, because it's not my story. So Gary talks about, and that at the time that he wrote this book, he was married to a woman named Nan, and he was traveling a lot. And he probably still does, because he's brilliant. He teaches a lot of classes. And when he came home, she said to him, you never take me out to dinner, Gary. Now, obviously, even if you write this book, you can sometimes go in to defend. So instead of being that calm union of tell me more, that's what he suggests you do when somebody says something to you. Instead of defending, ask the question, tell me more. And then when they tell you, ask them again, tell me more. And then maybe ask them, what is it that you actually need? What are you asking me for? Because remember, what we teach is there's only love. So either somebody is coming at you with love, or somebody's coming at you screaming for love. That's the only two things that are going on. And what he said was, I take you out to dinner all the time. And evidently he's got one of those memories that remembers, because he started to tell her dates and places that he took her. Now, ladies, probably gentlemen too, that was not going to end well, was it? So what if we actually live from a place, instead of playing this game of, I'm not going to tell you what I really want, I'm going to say something and then I want you to guess. What if she had just said, Gary, I really miss you. You've been gone a long time. Could we go out to dinner tonight? Wow. So that's just an example. Imagine all the times in your life, because we're not only the receiver of this type of energy, we also are the givers of this type of energy, right? Every single one of us, if we're not comfortable because of how we were raised or what story we were told, we're not comfortable expressing ourselves and truly asking for what we want, we come at it in sideways. I will never forget when Paul and I first started dating. And I had a fan in my bedroom. I guess we'd been dating a long time, I'll just say that. I had a fan in my bedroom, and I said, it's kind of cold in here. And his response was, if you want me to get up and turn off the fan, don't be passive aggressive. And I burst out laughing, because I thought, oh my goodness. Because of my past relationships and how I had been treated, I never would ask for anything. I would always come in sideways. I would always protect myself, because this was the first relationship I'd ever had where I was clean and sober. And so I was always walking on eggshells. I was always protecting myself. And so it made me laugh, because I was like, oh. Now, does that mean I have given up all my passive-aggressive tendencies? Yeah, no. I wish I could say that I had, and yet I waited quite a number of years before I shifted my consciousness. And so I have had, 50 years of practicing being one way and 16 years of practicing being another. And so when I get tired, when I get stressed, I tend to grab from my bag of tricks that feel really comfortable, because I've practiced them so long. So in this book, and this is, and I always say to people, what we teach here is you take responsibility for your life. And by the way, this book is for sale in the Life Abundant bookstore. You could read this in a day. And it's juicy, and it's full of great things, and I think there's only 2 copies left. So if you don't have it, I highly suggest you get it. And because I went off on that tangent, I just forgot where I was. Okay. Well, anybody remember what I said before I went off on the book tangent? The bag of tricks. Okay. It's not coming back. It will come back later. It's not coming back right now. So the second wind of conflict is the wind of misconception. And this reminded me of the 4 agreements. Because misconception is, I'm not going to ask you what you meant by that. I am just going to assume I know. And then I'm going to take off from there. And it's really, it's delightful when you're in relationship with somebody and, you know, and really working on not having misconceptions. And so I have a friend, and either I'll go off somewhere and then I'll say, that was such a story. I have no idea if any of that was true. And she will say the same thing back to me. Well, that's a story I just made up. You know, because we just make assumptions based on this is how the person behaved, and so this is exactly what all of that meant. And we don't know when somebody behaves a certain way what that meant unless we ask them. And most of us, out of fear of being told it's none of your business, or out of fear because we were told, you know, don't ask people things, don't be nosy. We just make stuff up. It's the water cooler syndrome. It's how we tend to connect, is because we all watch a certain program, and so then we all want to gather around and everybody talk about that particular program. Or we all have the same boss, and so we all want to gather around and talk about how we don't like our boss and how our boss does this. And it's misconception because it's just our experience. And so here is the deal about life. You see life through the eyes you see from. Do you understand what that means? It means that Kim and I can look at exactly the same situation, the same conversation, and feel and hear 2 entirely different things, because Kim is basing it on her life experiences and I am basing it on my life experiences. It's why when there's an accident, policemen want more than one eyewitness, because everybody sees something different. And so the attribute to misconception is principle. To know. Because in the unity teaching, principle means God. And so to know, absolutely, not only are you God informed, so is everybody else. It's not a one ticket only. You know, we don't teach here that Jesus was the great exception. We teach here Jesus was the great example. And it is done unto you as you believe. And so to experience life as Christ, that I am Christ as God, or I am Christ of God. So remember that Jesus Christ was not his last name, just so you know, in case you were confused. Because maybe as a kid, that's what I thought. Jesus Christ, that's how everybody referred to him. Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ. I have a first name, I have a last name, must be his last name. It's not. It's consciousness. And if you truly believe and own what we teach here, then you are that same consciousness. So be the Christ consciousness of your own world. That's a huge responsibility, to be the Christ consciousness of your own world, because what that means is then you get to look at your world and not take offense. Uh-oh. That's a practice. And it has shown up since I started. It shows up in my life all the time, except now I am conscious of how I'm choosing to respond. Right? Because now I'm being made aware of what he says, and what I tend to believe is anytime I'm responding and it's not a loving response, it's a place where I believe God doesn't exist in me. So all of this is about me, just like all of your experiences are about you. You call them forth into your life. That is probably the biggest, most difficult pill to swallow. I absolutely did not call that forward into my life. People will say that, and they absolutely want to believe it. And so you have to be gentle when you think about that. With myself, because I totally believe that that is true, then I get to stand in that place of what just happened and why. And how am I going to choose to respond? And so this morning, as I said, Kim got here, almost right when meditation started and gave a really wonderful meditation. She wasn't set up to do meditation. Somebody else was. And I got a text. Fortunately, I looked at my phone. I'm really sorry. I'm not feeling, I'm ill and I'm not going to be there. Now, that could have sent me off on a tangent. And what I thought was, you're so funny. Gee, thank you, Spirit. I really didn't want to practice today on being the eye of the storm, finding that peace and calm within me that just says, okay, I'm not going to react. This will work itself out. And it will, because what I know is we have brilliant practitioners here. And if Kim hadn't gotten the text inside in time, Karen was ready to step in instead of Kim. So, trusting and have faith that nothing's wrong, right? The universe is not against me. It is always for me. Sometimes I want to scream at it, stop being for me so much. I don't need to practice this one more time. Evidently I do. So it's my opportunity to grow, and so I ask each of you to think about your life and think about where you get pushed and how you respond. Because remember, the push isn't about you. The response definitely is. The response is all you. So if you called this person forward in your life because your spirit wants to learn something, and they say something to you, and you immediately defend yourself, then you haven't really learned how to be the eye of the storm. Now, please don't practice this on me after service. I don't think I have this down yet. I'm doing my best. And I really don't need opportunities, all of you, let's go see if Gayle's really got this down. Because I know some of you out there think, yeah, let's see. And I have a friend, and I don't know if I can do this, because my issues with driving my car. It's my biggest practice. And I have a friend, it's her biggest practice. And she told me yesterday, she deliberately, because she wants to practice patience, she deliberately drove behind people in the slow lane. She didn't drive around them. She didn't cuss at them. She just drove behind them. And I looked right at her, and I went, good for you. Bravo for you. And so, I am in practice mode, and I own that because I'm human. And Reverend Susie used to always say, if we totally get all of this, then our spirit's done here and we'll move on to the next level. So I'm good with practicing right now. So the third wind of conflict, the third storm is competition. Now we have competition in sports, but how many you feel that there's competition in life? Right? If you have a business, we have Genesis Global Spiritual Center. There are 4 other centers right in the Seattle area. And we teach oneness. So we shouldn't worry about where people choose to go to church on Sunday. And yet there is an energy sometimes there of, oh my God, they've left here and they're going there. Oh, why aren't they coming here? And everybody is exactly where they're supposed to be. Every single day. Every single day. So that is an example of just, there is no competition. When you really understand the universe isn't against you. When you really understand you are calling forth all your experiences. When you really understand the power and the presence of God that is living within you and breathing within you and wants to express as you. Express as you as God. Not express as you as Gayle throwing a temper tantrum. Right? So the question is then with, with misperception, no, where am I? Oh, competition, sorry. With competition, what is my attribute of wholeness? And my attribute of wholeness is purpose. Absolute purpose. Knowing that every single person here has a purpose. And that nobody can take your purpose away from you. Nobody can compete with your purpose, because if you live and breathe your purpose, you're unique. Do you know that there are Starbucks in some cities that are right across the street from each other? They don't worry about it. There are Starbucks and other coffee shops right around each other. There are gas stations. Here, there are 3 within a block of each other. To understand that we aren't set up to compete. We are set up to really get along with each other. And the competitiveness comes from feeling that there is lack, that there's not enough. And to understand that there is more than enough. Did you know that Seattle is the largest unchurched city in the United States? Do you know how many people live in Seattle? I mean, number-wise. I know you live there, but number-wise, is it 1 million? About 1 million? So if I take all 4 centers for spiritual living, I don't think we have 1,000. Why would we compete with each other? There's a whole plethora of people out there that I believe could benefit from this teaching. Why would I want to go cherry pick from another organization that teaches the same thing I do? In Denver, Colorado, they celebrate the fact that people are coming to their communities regardless. You know, if you don't live close to Mile High's expectation is you'll go to Denver Center for Spiritual Living because it's closer to your house. So think about that in the energy, what that does to the energy of people feeling that they really belong. People really knowing that we practice and we walk our talk. That there's more than enough for all of us in everything that we do. Everything that we do. No matter what the economy looks like. Because if the economy were dipping, the natural response for us is to go into lack consciousness. And yet to always remember the universe and God are abundant. So you're always abundant. What you experience here is something we've called forth either individually or collectively because we want to experience it. Remember, our souls are calling forth things for us to ever expand. And sometimes you can tell your soul, enough already. Right? Enough already. And yet, I delight in the fact that I am awake enough to recognize that, oh, okay, there's a reason that I'm teaching this book. Because there's another level of consciousness I want to live from. And that is the consciousness of being that eye of the storm instead of being the hurricane or the wind of conflict. And so the last wind of conflict is defensiveness, right? How many, other than me, how many of you always feel you have to defend yourself? Oh, thank you. Whew. I was getting a little worried there. What if nobody raises their hand? I believe every single one of us has moments in our life where we think we have to defend ourselves. Especially if somebody says something to us like, well, you know, this person doesn't believe that you do this. And then the response, well, naturally I do this, and then here's how I do it. Kind of like Gary with his wife, right? Of course I take you out to dinner. And I took you out on April 1st, and I took you out on April 14th, and and naming the places. That isn't listening to what the person is trying to say. Because if they aren't coming at you from love, they are coming at you with a need to be loved. So what if instead I said, what is it that you are actually needing from me? Instead of thinking I have to defend myself because I don't see my behavior the same way they do. Because the truth is, it doesn't matter how I see my behavior. In that instance, my soul is saying, here's a place for you to practice, not defending yourself. Here is a place for you to practice being the love and the power and the presence of God in form. Here is a place for you to practice what you preach. And like I said, I'm still practicing. And I think I am doing better now than even a month ago. And yet what I know is I'll be given new opportunities to practice. And so in the eye of the storm to defensiveness is non-resistance. To really practice taking a breath. So I want you to all think of somebody in your life right now that where you go to with this person is to defend yourself. I'm sure you all have one person that your automatic response, because they are constant, they've got that button, they probably installed it. They have that button and they know exactly how to push it. I want you to think of that person. Just close your eyes, bring them in front of you, feel the energy that you feel when that person even walks into a room. How you immediately go into defense mode. How you immediately are conjuring up ways and things to say. And now I want you to take a deep breath. And on the release, just imagine sending this person love instead of saying or doing anything. Just imagine, deep breath in, knowing that this person too is the power and presence of God in form. Knowing that this person is seeking love, or this person is expressing love. And so shifting your energy, just imagine energetically what that would feel like, heart to heart, soul to soul, mind to mind, to just know that your souls are connected. And whether you choose to have a relationship with this person or not doesn't matter. What you can choose to know is when you're in that person's presence, you get to choose to be different. Because you have the power to be that eye of the storm. You can open your eyes. And so to remember, the 4 winds of conflict are separation. The eye of the storm of separation is communion. Misconception is a wind of conflict, and the eye of the storm is principle or God. Competition is a wind of conflict, and the eye of that storm is purpose. To know what your purpose is, what their purpose is, that you're here to play together. And last, the wind of conflict is defensiveness, and to practice being non-resistance. And I promise, as you practice, so will I. I'll probably practice more than you because I'll have more opportunities, because that's how my spirit works. It's like, you're working on this, let's bring you lots of opportunity to practice. And so just holding that energy, you can close your eyes if you choose. Knowing right here and right now there is one life, it is God's life, it is whole, it is complete, it is perfect. It is my life, it is your life, it is everyone's life everywhere. For it is that divine presence that exists over us, around us, through us, as us. It is the truth of who we are. At the very core of our beingness, God in form. And so as I know that for myself, and I know that for all of you, and I know that for people everywhere, I choose right here and right now to know that I am always at choice. Always at choice on how I show up, how I react, how I choose to be in the world. And so instead of allowing the wind of conflicts to pull me off of my center, I choose to stand in that place and know I can be the eye of the storm. I can be that place where the person, regardless of what they say to me, can know and feel and understand that they too are a child of God, and I only wish them and send them love. And so that is what I know for us today, that each one of us practices being that eye of the storm. And as I say, thank you, God, for this opportunity, for this expression of the divine energy as us. I turn all of these words over into the law, knowing that as it is spoken, it is done. The universe has said yes to all of us. And it is in that yes that we relax, we let go, and we just say, thank you, God. And together we say, and so it is.